really excited to introduce a very close collaborator of ours, Adam from the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, an organization we work very closely with. So each of these four speakers are going to briefly introduce themselves and their organization, and then we're all going to come back together to have a shared conversation around collaborating to find sustainable packaging options in the pet industry. Enjoy.
Hello everyone, this is Brianna Shepard. I am a Senior Program Officer at the World Wildlife Fund, and I'm here today to talk to you about the U.S. Plastics Pact, which is pretty new. It was launched in August 2020, and it is led by the Recycling Partnership and the World Wildlife Fund as part of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's Global Plastics Pact network. And so just a little bit about the Pact and why we're talking about it today. The Pact at its core is meant to be a collaboration across a variety of US stakeholders. And as we talk about it, it's important to think about why a pact was even developed in the US. And the reason is that I think, pretty much everyone who's attending this conference today understands that the plastic waste challenge is really too big and too important to address alone. We need all of the stakeholders at the table, and we need everyone working together in a way that's strategic and in a way where we're really coordinating our efforts and not duplicating them. And that's what the U.S. Plastics Pact seeks to do. Each pact has a set of targets that they publish, as I said, and then they also report against those targets year over year and how they're doing against them. And so our four targets are in the colored blocks on this slide. The first is to define a list of packaging that is problematic or unnecessary by 2021, and then take measures to eliminate them by 2025. And so right now, as of the time of this recording, we have 87 Pact activators, and we're thrilled to have, so many different groups from a variety of backgrounds to support this initiative. We are currently also accepting new activator members. So if you are interested, there'll be some information at the end of this presentation that you can take. How is the Pact going to measure its progress against those four targets and really know if it's moving the needle on plastic waste? And so as part of our effort, WWF has developed a tool. We call it our Plastic Footprint Tracker. It's part of our broader Resource Plastic program, which is a program that WWF runs to partner with companies who have made strong plastic commitments and helping them activate toward those goals. And so the Footprint Tracker is a tool for companies to measure and track their global plastics footprint, and we are adapting it for the Pact. And so it's really a consistent accounting methodology that's going to allow all of our Pact stakeholders to really measure their progress year over year and make sure that we're all measuring in a way where we're comparing apples to apples. And then based on the type of activator you are, your reporting requirements will be different. So our tool includes both quantitative and qualitative methods for measuring both in supply chain activities for some of our for-profit activators, as well as some what we call beyond the supply chain activities, like things like investing in waste management or cleanups or engaging in employee and consumer activities. All those types of activities we want to also make sure that we take account of. So that's an overview of the Footprint Tracker and how we will be measuring in a consistent way. And if you would like to learn more about the Footprint Tracker, you can visit the website at the bottom of the screen. We currently have 6 work streams in the phase 1 of the US Pact rollout. All of these work streams are basically working together on our roadmap development. And I won't read through every one, but this is really just to show that we are covering a pretty broad scope in terms of our year 1 goals. And these work streams are made up of all of our current activators. And we are really looking forward to providing some more information on their year 1 outputs and deliverables, and really appreciate all of them helping us to work toward our goals. So in terms of what comes next, This is our existing timeline. Our focus right now is really on building up our work streams, engaging their expertise, and developing and publishing our roadmap for how we're going to take those targets that I showed you on the earlier slide and push them toward 2025 in a way that's measurable and tangible, and where we can, show our efforts and how they have laddered up to broader solutions. So our roadmap is anticipated to be released in the coming week, so it will be public soon, and we're looking forward to sharing it with all of you. And that's all I have for today. Thank you all so much for your attention, and I look forward to speaking with you more about the Pact.
Hi, I am Allie Blandina with the Recycling Partnership. I am the Director of Circular Ventures, and I'm so excited to be part of this panel today. For those of you who don't know, we are a nonprofit focused on improving recycling and the circular economy across the US. So if we dig into a little bit of what we do, the Recycling Partnership has a lot of different legs to our organization. We have a team that works on infrastructure grants and reducing contamination, as well as increasing participation. We work with single-family homes as well as multifamily homes. We have a team dedicated to education and communication, making sure that we are improving recycle right behavior, which is part of reducing contamination. And we also have our new work that I'm going to be talking about today is how do we bring the industry together in a pre-competitive way to increase the recyclability and circularity of certain packaging materials. So if we look at the packaging materials that are in the industry today, they come in so many different shapes and sizes and material types. And many companies have made commitments for 100% of their packaging to be recyclable or compostable by 2025. But the reality is, while they're working on designing things to be technically recyclable, there's no clear path to make sure that their packages are actually recycled in practice and at scale. So we went ahead and wrote a Bridge to Circularity report in 2019 and published this. And in that report, we provided a clear roadmap to create a new and improved recycling system, which is just one of many steps needed to move the US towards a circular economy. In this, it was very clear that transitioning to a circular economy is actually going to require systems change. And that's why we're really excited about the new initiative that I'm going to go through today that can give guidance on these clear and actionable next steps, which we're calling the Pathway to Circularity. The Pathway to Circularity brings together industry efforts and assets and guidance and provides a methodology and approach to problem solving that addresses limitations associated with the recycling and circularity of certain packaging materials today. As many of you know, navigating the recycling industry right now can be quite tricky, in part because there's a lot of gray areas and uncertain concepts. And what we're trying to do is wash away this gray and bring the needed clarity to enable more stakeholders to successfully navigate and advance the circular economy. So if we look at what the Pathway to Circularity framework is itself, it's based on building blocks. And these building blocks represent every aspect of the industry and show the interconnectivity, interdependence of the different aspects of the recycling industry. The building blocks are made up of key elements and requirements of what must be true for a material or a package to be circular. Again, this framework is going beyond technical recyclability and looking at what is happening in practice and at scale. And when you look at this framework, and there are gaps that are identified or building block requirements that are not met, there's an opportunity for the industry to come together pre-competitively to address these challenges and barriers and really enable circularity and enable greater recyclability of packages. So I want to walk through just really quickly an example of a material-specific initiative that we have, which is called the Polypropylene Coalition. we were able to use the framework that we've laid out to identify the key challenges and barriers that polypropylene is facing in the industry today and bring together different members of the value chain of polypropylene, really ranging from resin suppliers to converters to brands to end markets and more, to address this problem head on from a holistic point of view. And what I want to leave you with is what we were all able to accomplish in 2020 in just 5 short months of our official launch in July of 2020. So with launching in July, the Recycling Partnership actually wrote and published our first MRF equipment, our RFP, which is a request for proposals from MRFs. And it was a huge success, so much so that we officially announced 4 MRF grants in the first round of applications, which was nearly $2 million in catalytic grants to advance polypropylene recycling. You can see on the right-hand side of this slide the 4 different grantees from round 1. And these projects collectively will raise polypropylene acceptance by about 1.7%, which is around 4 million people. Just an incredible impact for a first round and a first go at this project. And we're really excited to see what we can do in the year ahead. These strategic investments are making it so that polypropylene is now going to be accepted curbside in more communities across the US. And in addition to solidifying these projects, we also had great success in communications and research. So the communication side of things is hugely important for this because we're trying to change the narrative around polypropylene and really get these positive stories out there. And we were able to reach nearly 90 million Americans with our communications work in 2020, and we hope to even strengthen that in 2021. We were also able to partner on some research for this coalition led by Closed Loop Partners. And it's just another example of how we want to partner for success and how we want to bring everyone in to address these challenges in a pre-competitive nature. So I'm glad that I had the opportunity to share this coalition with you guys today as an example of how the industry can come together to create change and advance the circular economy.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Harding, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about our packaging collaborative at OSC. I serve as a packaging advisor and lead for the group, but roughly 8 years ago, a network of founders and CEOs in the natural products industry gathered to try to tackle the most pressing challenges that our industry is facing. Packaging is certainly one of them. It is the big P in CPG, and we really want to find regenerative and holistic solutions designed for circularity that take as much due diligence as we look at our product ingredients with and take that and translate it to packaging. So with our group, we have over 40 member companies. We work with material providers, NGOs, waste haulers, basically trying to find ways to bring stakeholders together across the value chain to collaborate and scale and push past the barriers that we're facing right now around sustainable packaging solutions. For us, it's all about quantifying the plastic pouch problem. The flexible films are really the challenge that we're seeing. And when you think about food waste as 6% of all of global greenhouse emissions, but looking at closer to a quarter for food systems specifically, there's a really missed opportunity here to leverage packaging, not just in a way that reduces the proliferation of plastics in the environment, but in a way that creates circularity and regeneration through renewable, plant-based, certified compostable films that have the potential to regenerate the environment rather than contaminate it. In collaboration, the theme of today is also the theme that's the key to our success. So you can kind of see here how we work together with other stakeholders across the value chain. But again, for us, it's all about convening folks, sharing best practices, sharing challenges and opportunities, and finding ways to leverage kind of a radical collaboration model where we don't really sign NDAs, but we are rapidly sharing supplier information, test and learning together with different university partners, and then more recently working with the Composter Manufacturing Alliance on field testing to bridge the gap between acceptance of materials at a composting facility. Just a quick list of some of the accomplishments that we've had over the few years, right? bringing together industry stakeholders, developing and testing new viable materials, investing in new technology, trying to develop corresponding campaigns that are consumer facing that increase awareness of compostables and renewable materials while at the same time encouraging appropriate recovery. And basically just trying to make sure that we're bringing the right people together and we're addressing a systems level view of how to scale sustainable solutions. As I mentioned, we kind of have some primary working streams, right? So you can see these are examples of 2 products that are in market today as a result of the collaboration of our group. Alter Eco released a stand-up pouch that you see here for their quinoa. They've also released a home compostable truffle wrapper that is, the truffles are delicious. The wrapper is very inspiring. And then Numi Tea has also launched their plant-based wrappers for their flow wrap for their teas. And so you can see where maybe 6 years ago, there wasn't this type of material in the marketplace. There wasn't a lot of investment in it. Now that we're in 2021 and we're approaching more of those 2025, 2030 packaging goals, there's more demand than ever in renewable films. And we think that through our collaborative model, we can continue to drive innovation in that sense. Quick recap on our 2020 initiatives, right? Looking back, we are working with Clemson University on shelf life studies, trying to address barrier requirements, and basically ensure that we have a North Star to guide in the directional development of compostable materials. We've also collaborated with other partners who are working in the same space. So Rainchild Design is one of them, where Raina at Rainchild is an absolute material expert. And so having her within our network is an important way for us to grow the material science of our offerings. And so by fostering community and connections, we worked together last year to launch a Redefining Flexible Film Summit, and not just bringing together the natural products companies, but bringing in folks like Pepsi and Mars, the people who do have a lot of dollars who are investing in PLAs and PHAs, and again, finding opportunities for scale and sharing best practices within that platform. And now we're working on 8 different incubation projects, including a policy project that I'm working on with a few members of the community to basically create platforms for advocacy, connect people to supportive producer responsibility bills, material bans, and consistent labeling requirements. And just a quick look at our 2021 initiatives, right? We are expanding our program. We're bringing in new material providers and companies. We've already brought on 2 new companies this year. Revisiting our test and learn projects with Clemson University and launching that field test with the Composter Manufacturing Alliance, trying to bridge the gap, establish public-private partnerships, and really drive innovative change. And then we will be working this year on a cross-sector facing plastic-free July campaign. So when we say plastic-free, you don't have to have plastic-free products today. It's all about finding ways to reduce your plastic, use plastic more effectively, or ultimately eliminate it altogether where possible. So between platforms for advocacy, kind of direct collaboration, and working with key stakeholders across the value chain, we hope to continue to have strong impact. So with that, in a nutshell, that's OSC, and I look forward to speaking more on this topic with you all later. Thanks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adam Gindel from the Sustainable Packaging Coalition, and I feel privileged to share this virtual stage with so many of our esteemed peer organizations, and it will truly be my pleasure to take us on a very quick tour through the SPC. To start off, I'd like to share several of the core beliefs on which the SPC is founded. First up, the belief that sustainability is truly a multifaceted topic. And when we think about the overall sustainability profile of packaging, we must view that through a holistic lens that includes the entire packaging life cycle and recognizes that there are sustainability considerations at each and every point of that life cycle. We believe that the thoughtful application of design principles is the best means to affect change. When we do that, we think about both the design of packaging itself and also the design of the many systems that surround packaging. Next, we believe that industry is full of driven professionals that share a sincere desire to make improvements. We believe in their power to make packaging more sustainable. Finally here, we believe strongly in connectivity. We believe that there should be a community that comes together to solve sustainability challenges, and we feel that that community must foster dialogue between stakeholder groups who might feel distant from one another, but who are very dependent on each other for their shared success. We believe in the power of a community that learns from each other and challenges each other. With these beliefs driving us, our work centers around these 3 desired outcomes: education, We want our members to stay on the leading edge of sustainable packaging expertise with both eyes wide open to all the emerging trends and drivers. Collaboration. We want our members to learn together, to work together, and to share a pre-competitive space where we can all be productive together. Lastly, action. We want our members to be armed with the knowledge and resources to drive change, both within their individual companies and organizations, and also in collective ways that move the needle for the industry as a whole. So we're proud to include over 500 companies, government agencies, and academic institutions in the SPC membership. Our members are our vehicle through which we work to achieve our mission of making packaging more sustainable, and the success of the SPC depends entirely on the success of our members. Membership is very diverse, and we're proud that we have balanced representation across supply chain positions, packaging materials, and product applications. That diversity enables us to work with a really robust community that spans across the entirety of sustainable packaging stakeholders. Now, to express our pillars of education, collaboration, and action, we undertake a number of activities and projects which range from design resources to training curriculums to web-based tools to systems of assessment criteria and on-pack labels. We also bring our members together in SPC collaboratives, which focus on specific topics in sustainable packaging and operate in a roundtable style atmosphere to connect our members and cultivate new ideas. Lastly, we work to bring the entire sustainable packaging community together through our events, which are held throughout the year and provide us with the opportunity to showcase the brightest minds, the biggest challenges, and the most promising solutions across a wide variety of sustainable packaging topics. So I hope you'll check us out and learn more about our work at sustainablepackaging.org. If you're on Twitter, please consider giving us a follow at SPC Spotlight. And at any time, we hope you will always feel free to drop us a line by emailing us at spcinfo@greenblue.org. With that, I will close and hand off the virtual microphone. I'd like to thank the Pet Sustainability Coalition for bringing us together today, and I'm very grateful to all of you for tuning in. Thank you.
Well, thank you to all of those incredible presenters for giving us an overview of your organization, the incredible collaborative work that you do, and for joining us today to take, first just to answer questions as a panel, but we'll also open up to some live Q&A a little bit later on as well. So mad respect for all of you. I think, as a coalition, as we started to determine how are we really going to focus PSC's work? How can we look at other collaborative organizations out there? And many of your organizations, have been incredibly active over just the last 3 years and have been really informative to us as we've began our journey in this direction. So I just want to really appreciate the forethought of each of your organizations and the attention that you've given to the subject matter as a topic that is advancing so rapidly. It feels like, just in the last 5 years, the topic of sustainable packaging has just exploded. So really appreciate all your work in this space. So I think what I'll start with first is a quick question to the entire panel. And if you could tell us, why do you think collaboration is required in order for our different industry groups and the industry at large to address sustainable packaging?
Hey, it's Adam. I'm happy to kick it off and then invite others to weigh in. I think for me and from my perspective, I think collaboration is critical because the challenges that we're seeking to solve around packaging aren't specific to any one particular company or any small subset of particular companies. It's truly an entire industry that needs to change. And so we believe in the idea of pre-competitive collaboration, even if that is an NGO cliche. There are so many opportunities we see for members of my organization to share their ideas and teach their peer companies how to adopt them. And then I think, peer pressure is also something too that is probably riding the coattails of that collaboration. And we're not anti-peer pressure. We think that's a good thing as well. So we just want to see a lot more of that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Adam. And for us too, if we think about packaging, right, it's an entire system that's been optimized for pricing and efficiency and has never accounted for the true cost of that natural resource use. And presently, the cost factor, which I know is a barrier for a lot of us in scaling to sustainable solutions, the negative externalities of that are being pushed to consumers, to people and the planet. And so when we're thinking about a system that's taken millions of stakeholders and a ton of different years where we've contributed to the problem, we now have a pretty daunting solution that we have to contribute to, and it's going to take collaboration to get us there.
Yeah, I'll jump in and just echo what both Alyssa and Adam are saying. And at the Recycling Partnership, we believe very similar things, that, to have effectful, meaningful systems change, you have to have collaboration and you have to have organizations coming together. We found that, bringing together members across the value chain pre-competitively is really where we have the biggest impact and how we have the biggest impact, especially because a lot of the challenges that people are facing with advancing packaging solutions also involve impacting the system and improving the system as a whole. And that takes a group effort.
And this is Brianna Shepard from the U.S. Plastics Pact. I would just add that I agree with all my fellow panelists. And I think in particular, when we look at the U.S. landscape and across it, there is such a patchwork framework somewhat of approaches. And it's really important to make sure that we're all coordinating in a way where we also don't duplicate efforts, especially, when we consider the enormity of the issue. So I would just add that as well.
All right. Well, thanks for your perspectives on collaboration. Really appreciate, again, just the responses from each organization. And wondering, sometimes collaboration can slow process. So there's times where, you're trying to get buy-in from everybody and nobody can agree on really what the streamlined solution is, and things get diluted because you end up, appealing to the lowest common denominator. So curious if you can share kind of any of your secret sauce recipes to, what really makes collaboration work.
I can kick this one off. We found that for successful collaboration for us, it's really about companies coming together in a pre-competitive way to support one common goal. So making sure that companies are aligned and support what the industry goal or what the success criteria is, and that when you put out an industry goal that everyone can get behind in a pre-competitive way, you're setting yourself up for success. And I'll reiterate again that, when you have support across the value chain for a common goal, it's a lot easier to reach that success because you're all working in tandem and in step towards a sustainable solution. So I would say, aligning around common goals and being able to come together in a pre-competitive way instead of a competitive way has really been the successful recipe for us.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Allie. And for us too, our packaging collaborative has a very narrow scope. And it was about 8 years ago that the members of our group aligned around the fact that flexible films were a real Achilles heel for our industry. And we didn't have a lot of sustainable solutions. We didn't have an infrastructure to capture it in terms of recycling. And so for us, as a way to reduce plastic proliferation and to find ways to address holistic systems level circularity within packaging, renewable, plant-based, and compostable is really what we're focusing on. So to Allie's point, we have a shared goal. It's to elevate the expansion of these films and to create markets and drive, scale and supply. And so for us, the collaboration of our community is oriented around material innovation, around scale, around identifying policy and advocacy opportunities to improve the infrastructure. And we do that through engaging very diverse stakeholders across the value chain. So I second that emotion.
I think I would add as well that having, buy-in from all of your stakeholders during your decision-making process and really building that consensus can be a successful component as well. For example, with the U.S. Plastics Pact, we really had, designated times for input and buy-in around the targets that we've developed, as well as the roadmap that we are building to get us to 2025 and get us toward those goals. So getting that buy-in throughout the process has been helpful in building consensus, especially with, over 90, I think, members now. It's been an iterative process, but one that's been really productive.
I can agree with everything that my fellow panelists are saying here. I want to add to your question, Caitlin. I don't think collaboration ought to be about finding a common ground that risks being lowest common denominator. What we see is a real bell curve in the community where you've got leaders, you've got fast followers, you've got companies that want to be, just not last, like slow followers. And then you have those who really just don't want to be at the table no matter what you do. I'm not sure we ever change that bell curve. I think the power is in bringing people from different segments of that bell curve together so that the leaders can lead and the followers can learn from the leaders. So collaboration isn't always about holding hands and building something together that's everything to everybody. For us, it's oftentimes really directly scoped around coordination, communication, education, and then again, I'll invoke my idea of peer pressure. That has its own too.
Thanks, Adam, and to all the panelists. Appreciate you sharing your special sauce with us as we head out on this journey as well. And absolutely agree that having some common goals, I think, the pet industry, or PSC, I should say, as we kind of looked at this starting a couple of years ago, recognized that there were so many different solutions and so many different directions to go that we really had to focus our efforts. And there'll be a panel later that's a return from our original collaborative panel in 2019 to talk about the progress we've made. So I'm really looking forward to that. So hey, I've got time for one more question from me, and then I'm going to hand it over to Melissa to ask some questions from the chat box. So if you haven't had a chance to ask a question and want to, Melissa's checking those, so make sure you enter those in. So what I'd love for you to share, and maybe not too long, maybe a quick response, is kind of one challenge that your organization has faced over the last, let's say, 12 to 18 months, and then one success that you've been celebrating in that same time frame.
Yeah, I think for us, our challenge and our success are really hand in hand. We have now folks who have certified compostable packaging and plant-based packaging in market as a result of our active collaboration. But the piece that's missing right now is composters aren't accepting CPG compostable packaging. And so they have food services currently accepted, but without the infrastructure in place, without mandatory labeling laws. A guy in a bulldozer 20 feet up doesn't know the difference between Alter Eco's bag and a conventional plastic. So that's a challenge. But one thing that we're excited about is that we just launched a field testing partnership with the Composter Manufacturing Alliance to bridge this gap. So throughout the year, we'll be doing iterative tests with them in different piles, different locations, and starting to aggregate data to drive that gap closure there.
For the SPC, I think one of the successes that we're celebrating is that when we think about sustainable packaging, ground zero was the really core CPG companies, right? Personal care, grocery products, beverages, and it's just been a shockwave that spread out from there. And we see that ripple effect reaching new industries like tech and electronic products and fashion and apparel and pet products. And so that's wonderful to be able to bring those new industries to the table. I think there's lots of cross-pollination from different product sectors learning from each other. Our challenge is that this ripple effect is slow, and there's still some really important product sectors out there that haven't really gotten on board yet. They haven't felt the same pressures that other market segments have. So when we think about sweeping change to transform an entire industry, kind of by the nature of that, we need to have everybody at the table. So we're encouraged by the direction here, but it just feels like there's still a gap to be bridged, I'll say.
That's great. I will add, from the recycling partnerships point of view, we are celebrating a great successful launch of the Polypropylene Recycling Coalition. We launched it in July of 2020 and have already given out 5 grants to MRFs across the US to sort for polypropylene specifically, which is increasing the access of polypropylene recycling, across the nation. to over 4 million people. We have another round of grant announcements coming up next month, so we're very excited. Honestly, to me, the challenge is continuing this momentum and kind of linking to what Adam said. You know, we had a lot of companies interested in the beginning, and we still have some companies joining on, but we're going to need everyone across the value chain to keep this momentum up and keep the change that we're looking to see up. So I would say, also linking with Alyssa, our success and our challenge is very hand in hand.
And I'll just finish up by adding that for the U.S. Plastics Pact, we've had quite a few successes over the last couple months since we've launched in August. But probably our biggest success was just, again, bringing together so many different stakeholders for that launch. We had been going through our recruitment and kind of governance process when COVID hit, and we ended up launching much later than we expected to. But that said, we think that it was worth the wait, and it was certainly a challenge to balance the sort of recruitment of bringing on additional folks when people did have such limited capacity, especially during this time, and really sort of carving out the niche of what the Pact will do and how it will serve amongst many other organizations as well.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing those insights on successes and challenges that you're experiencing recently. I want to let everyone know that there's going to be a new poll that's going to run active. So you can click on that poll link and let us know after hearing from these incredible speakers. You know, as an industry, how do we see our path forward? Is it collaborating across the industry? Is it working with these other bigger collaborations? So give us some feedback as to how you think we should progress. And then I'm going to hand it over to Melissa to take a few questions from the audience as well.
To chat with all of you. We've got a question that I love, which is, are there other industries that we as a pet industry, or as we're building initiatives to work together, are there other industries that have done a really great job that maybe we can take some lessons from? My favorite recent example is the Super Bowl ad that the bottle industry with Coke and Pepsi and Dr. Pepper all coming together and doing some consumer education in a pre-competitive space. But are there other industries from your points of view that we can be taking lessons from, or that you think is doing a great job?
I can kick this one off because I've got something very specific that comes to mind here. We're looking at RECs, renewable energy credits, as a pattern we can follow for tradable credits for recycled content in packaging and elsewhere. And one of the complexities when we started that conversation was that not all destinations for recycled content are created equal. And therefore, if folks are going to trade credits, there has to be some delineation between the preferability of the different end markets. And when we look at RECs, we see the exact same set of circumstances where, you know, solar-derived RECs are valued differently than wind-derived RECs, and et cetera. So I'm not sure that there's any area in sustainable development that has really nailed it and solved everything. I hope that we're all here today collectively the first to do it with packaging. But there's plenty of great examples and patterns that can be followed across things like, you know, buildings and urban development and energy and transportation and so forth. So yeah, those are out there.
Great, thank you, Adam. Any to the ladies? Do you any of you ladies have any examples of, you know, industries that you think are doing a great job or that we can learn from?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Allie, you can go.
No, go ahead.
I was thinking about financial institutions, right? With BlackRock's announcement again this year and the trajectory that we're seeing behind ESG investors and kind of the risk assessments there. I think we're starting to see a lot of people walk the talk when it comes to their commitments. And I know through a few of the other engagements that I have professionally, have heard from both MasterCard and Visa how they're addressing justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, improving access to different things, and even basically creating a whole value proposition around reforestation through their product launches. So I think to Adam's point, there is no silver bullet. There is no one industry doing it all correctly, but I think we can see momentum across sectors, which brings me a lot of inspiration.
All right, well, thank you all. I'm just loving the conversation of that we really do need to be working together and coming together, not only as a pet industry, but suppliers and brands across the value chain. So once again, thank you so much.